The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, I, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small, and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family, and available wherever you get your podcasts.
And welcome back to Film Foundations, the collaborative show between Weirding Way Media and Someone's Favorite Productions. I'm your co-host, Ryan Verrill from The Disconnected.
And I'm your other host from The Culturecast, Chris Dashew, an internet movie podcast that was nominated for no awards because we didn't put our name in there for any. So that's why you don't get nominated if you don't put your name in. That's what I found out. So,
unfortunately. And on the show, we always ask and answer 4 questions about a given topic that is surrounding either an actor, director, franchise, or microgenre. And as usual, our job is to entice you to broaden your horizons on film, encourage you to travel down film tangents and side roads, and as we're going to discuss tonight, even to other international countries that you may never have considered before. Our guest today is the esteemed, one of my favorite people in the world, Celeste Cabra. Celeste, thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you for the high praise. I appreciate that. And yes, I'm happy to be here on your new, well, I don't know how new it'll be by the time this is up, but newish, newer, most recent creative venture.
Hard to keep which there are many.
To be honest. I don't even know if that's accurate. You might have newer ones at this point. I'm not sure.
Jeez.
Yeah. Wow. What am I going to do with all this free time? Spend it on something else? Why would I do anything else at this point? Come on. I do want to mention, though, Ryan, before we get any further, it really cracks me up that we're going to get you to watch movies from a country you may have never thought of. Japan.
The hard
Hear me out here, folks. It's like this is a place you've never heard of.
The hard thing, I know you're saying it jokingly, but there's so many people that are genuinely anti anything with subtitles, and it's a fight. Like Celeste and I have talked about this before. It's some of the best films, especially from the last 5 years, are all international films. Yeah. And if you're scared of subtitles, you're fucked.
We're going to be talking about it, and I'm going to try to be nice about it, but we'll see how successful that is.
You're talking to the person, Ryan, who has the Bollywood Cinema Club podcast, where there ain't a single, well, there's English being spoken, but it ain't enough to not have subtitles. That's all I'm saying. I get it. It's a thankless fucking job to try to get people to watch movies with subtitles, because you have to read. Here's how it pause it. Just watch everything with subtitles, and then it doesn't matter. See, I just fixed your life for you. If you just watch shit with subtitles, it makes it better, period, the end.
Just be raised by a first immigration immigrant and also have an audio processing issue. And then you'll be watching everything with subtitles since you were a child. And that'll be that. You won't have to worry about it.
See? You got all of us beat.
I love that you bring that up on this episode, but we've done things where we say things that you may never have tried before, like Jim Carrey. I mean, there's every one of these topics are going to be very obvious for certain people.
I agree. I thought it was funny. It was like Japan. Japan is like, I think most Americans know where Japan is. Can we say that for certain? Probably not.
Not anymore.
God damn it.
I wonder if you actually took a poll what that number would be, the number of people who could find it on a map. I'd like to think it's over 50, but in my heart, I know it's not.
I saw a thing where they couldn't place where Nebraska was, and I live there, and it's in this country, so you're probably right.
Well, I guess I'll raise my hand and say I'm not 100% sure I could accurately find Nebraska on him.
Fair, very fair.
I could probably guess it within 2 or 3. I don't know.
Right. Generally it's about here.
The center. Mm-hmm.
For those that don't know, Celeste La Cabra is an incredible film analyst on YouTube. Going to be launching a podcast soon that I'm extremely excited about. It will be on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network. But in all reality, like, Celeste kind of does a little bit of everything. A lot of what you've been doing is expanded over the last couple of years. Hell, you helped me host the Shell Shock Rewind Awards this year. And I
did.
Yeah. What? Tell everybody what else you do. What all do you do on your channel?
Sure. So, I think generally speaking, there's a big focus on like physical media and analyzing like underseen films through that medium. But I'd like to say that if you're interested in in-depth discussions on cult and art house films, you'll find something to like on my channel. Those are my sort of key areas of interest. I spend a lot of time reviewing the films that Vinegar Syndrome puts out. So a lot of like weird underseen horror and genre films, but I've also I'm trying to do better, at least, about reviewing like contemporary films that I think are interesting and have interesting things to say, including Poor Things and Barbarian and Skinamarink are some of the more successful videos I've done in that space. I like to not limit myself and not necessarily just be stuck doing one thing, which is why I'm kind of all over the place, as you've said. I just really like films in general. I really like analyzing films, and I think that cult and art house are the sort of buckets that have the most interesting things to talk about. So that's sort of where I spend my time. I'm not sure how well what we're talking about today fits in either of those, but it is something near and dear to my heart, so I'm excited to discuss it regardless.
Interesting. That's a great way to say that. And I don't know if you saw his face light up. You'll be happy to hear that Chris is a giant fan of Skinamarink.
Yeah, I was really excited when you were your guest on the stream. I was like, finally an ally in the truth of the genius that is. It's genuinely, unironically, my favorite film that came out last year and one of my favorite films of all time. So
I'm right there with you.
You'll find
Ryan can be wrong. It's okay. He's wrong every now and then, and this just happens to be one of those times.
It's okay. It's okay.
Chris doesn't have a whole lot of physical media, but the one that he had to get was the Steelbook of Skinamarink.
It's true.
I have a whole thing with that Steelbook that I don't have at the end of the story, but that's okay. It's less space, and it is taken up now, so it's fine.
It's somewhere. It's over there somewhere. You can have my copy. I don't like it that much. I mean, I like it, but it's not. I'm not going to watch the physical. Isn't that terrible? I'm not going to watch the physical media. I mean,
we should.
There's a lot of steps to get to that point that I necessarily am not willing to fuck with, if that makes sense.
I'm going to get you there, I promise.
I know. I know that. I know that. God, I sound like such a scuzzball. Like, I don't want to own physical media. That's not it. It's a different
fucking streamer scumbag. How dare you?
I mean, I have a ton of DVDs. I stopped buying when they changed to Blu-ray. That's actually the problem. I was one of those people that never moved to Blu-ray. I have a ton of DVDs.
I started collecting post 4K, so I've just had a banquet before.
Right. Like,
minimal. Yeah. Actually, you'd think there'd be minimal upgrading in that space, but I still feel like I'm always doing that, so I don't know.
Nice. So tonight we are talking about Godzilla. So why is Godzilla so important to you?
So we mentioned him a little bit in the pre-show banter. That was perfectly brief, I think. But my brother is a sort of person who gets really into things and then moves on to another thing and gets really into it. And it's like a thing where, I mean, there's probably a couple dozen like things that he's been really into since as he's been growing up. And so I think that, he's younger than me, but I like to think that he's gotten some amount of interest from me, but he would get really into things that I think are pretty cool and interesting. And I think they stuck with me, and they were like, parts of my childhood that I could look back on kind of fondly. And, X-Men is one thing that he got really into. I didn't get as into it, but I still love X-Men. But Godzilla is something that he got into where I was like, yeah, this rules. This is fun. I like this a lot. And, as an adult, when I started getting into films like generally and getting really into it and being more analytical about it and purposeful about my cinema viewing and things of that nature, Godzilla was something that I revisited, and, I imagine that the nostalgia is some of what's informing this. But I actually just think that the films are really good and are really important and really interesting. Especially the first one, but we'll get to that later. But I don't know. It's just like this sort of, it's a thing that consistently brings me joy. Like, I have now seen all of the main Godzilla films. I know that before the show, you were saying that we should maybe discuss how many there are. It really depends on how you count it. There are 3 anime films that have been created at this point that I haven't seen. And there's that new Apple series that I haven't watched. And there's obviously one in theaters right now that is American that I haven't seen yet. And then there's a return, or is that what's called? Return of Mothra? Something like that? There's a Mothra trilogy outside of the primary Mothra film that I do own, but I haven't seen yet. But in terms of the main line, I think it's like 32 Godzilla films, something like that. I've seen all of those, and I've actually seen a few of the deep cuts from like the Ashiro Honda filmography, like the Rodan and Mothra films. And so that whole journey has been really fun. And the point I was arriving at before I got on that little tangent is that, the films are pretty formulaic. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like they're not. But, there's always the moment when he shows up and you hear his roar and you get to see that first establishing shot of how he's going to look in this given film. And I noticed about 15 films into this thing that, like, every single time that happens, it makes me smile, like, without fail. I'm just like, there's our boy. There he is. Let's fucking go. Like, it's just the best, And so I don't know if you can see on top of my bookshelf over here under my Mae West poster, there's a couple Godzilla figures. There's some more over there. I have a kind of collection of figures at this point. And I don't know. Also, while I'm giving a really long-winded answer, there was I don't play video games anymore. I haven't really in probably 15 years or something. But when I was a kid and I did play some video games, one of them was Godzilla Save the Earth. Godzilla Saves the Earth? One of those two on the PS2. And it's just like a fighting game where you can play like every single one of the monsters. And that's just kind of how I got familiarized with like their looks and aesthetics and like movements and everything like that. And that was a game that I used to play as a kid with like my brother and my cousin and family members and stuff. And that's just kind of how I got familiarized with all the different names. So even before I had seen a ton of the films, I knew all of the characters and knew all their names. So yeah. Is one of the few video games that I have some amount of affinity for. So there's my long answer.
I love that answer. There's so much in Godzilla to, I don't know, unpack, I guess is a good way to say it. Like there's different eras, there's different producing companies, there's Roland Emmerich, there's
Can we take a pause for a moment? Because here I am. I'm gonna be that guy just for a moment. I will defend that Godzilla movie with a massive dose of unirony. No irony there. I'm serious. I enjoy Godzilla 1999 a lot. I think Matthew Broderick's great. I love how Roland Emmerich is mad at Siskel and Ebert, so he makes 2 characters in the movie that are those 2, and they're like completely despicable. Hank Azaria. I mean, it has like a weird Simpsons cast thing going on with Hank Azaria and Harry Shearer being in the movie in live action roles, which is not a thing that's really a thing. It kind of isn't a thing. Like the Simpsons actors show up and stuff from time to time now, but rarely are there multiple in a movie. And you know what? I don't mind that the Godzilla is essentially a Jurassic Park movie by the end of it. The baby Godzillas are fine. They're essentially raptors. And it's the raptor chase from Jurassic Park that you never get because Jurassic Park kind of takes itself a little too seriously. And it's fun. I mean, it's a fun movie. Is it an amazing Godzilla movie? No. But it's a fun it's more fun than that Aaron Taylor Johnson 2014 Godzilla movie is.
We got a rapid fire set of hot takes there. So
it's not the hot take. It's not a hot take. I've loved that movie since I was 9 years old, and I saw it in the theaters.
So yes, that was another piece I forgot about because I think I've blocked it from my memory. But when I was younger, when I was very young, that film was another one that we grew up watching a lot and really loved until like my brother got into the real stuff and started to enjoy that, and we kind of got away from that. I rewatched it. I'm going to try not to be too gatekeepy about this because that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I want to do.
Trust me, you're not keeping me out of any gates. I'm not trying to get in anywhere. I'm not trying to get into the Godzilla playpen or whatever. Godzilla and his friends. I'm not. Like, I like Godzilla. Maybe that's the problem. I don't love him.
No, it's okay. Really, it's okay. But like, I rewatched it as I was going through this stuff, and it actually like made me like viscerally angry. I was
shit.
I think this is like a genuine, like indefensible piece of shit. But let me. That was just my emotional reaction in the moment. Let me give my more tempered take on Godzilla 1998, or is it 9? I'm not actually
1999.
Okay.
Brought to you by Taco Bell and Sean Puffy Combs. Who would have thought that would age poorly?
As a Godzilla film, like if we're attempting to place it, like judging it against what Godzilla is and what it should mean, I think it's horrible. I think it's a genuine piece of shit, terrible movie. But if we're just going to look at it as a Roland Emmerich, American buffoonery kind of like action extravaganza disaster film, I still hate it, but I think it is at least defensible. I think you could say, yeah, I think it's a good time, and I won't get mad at you for that. But I almost thought about rewatching it for this so that I could have a more intelligent like takedown on it. But I just remember watching it and feeling so truly that it fundamentally misunderstands like what Godzilla is and like what it means, and in a way that is like specifically American, that I think is so wildly inappropriate in the context of like the metaphor of Godzilla, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So
yes, that's kind of the problem. Yeah. I mean, again, like I understand it being indefensible because again, like it really just goes, hey, Godzilla's just like this big stupid monster that we created. Hardy har har. Like no, what? Like it's like a movie winning the Academy Award in this country for best film and then people watching it in Japan and going like, we're going to really be into this movie. I don't get it. I don't get the expectation, I guess. If you, I don't know, like Godzilla fans at the time were angry. I know that much.
I would have been like 2, so I wouldn't have had a stake in that one, but,
fair.
I think that I watched the 2014 one, to prepare for this. That was actually one film I did get to rewatch because I remember seeing it in the theater and loving it and being like, I don't know if that opinion is going to hold up.
Right.
I will say I still really liked it. I thought it was great. And it's a little bit more tactful in the handling of its politics. It says some things that I'm like not sure where I sit on it, but I think that as a competent action disaster film with special effects that honestly hold up better than a lot of stuff that's out today, which is a little bit depressing. I did find it like massively entertaining, and I think it did look really good, and I think it did strike the balance of being like a popcorn film with serious things to say. But the point I was arriving at there is, as you're watching it, I at least can't help but feel like there is something fundamentally wrong about Americans co-opting this intellectual property and making entertainment with it. And so I'll say that that's a good film. I didn't get a chance to rewatch the other ones, but I do feel fundamentally that Americans probably shouldn't be making Godzilla movies.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they should be making movies about celebrating the people that made the nuclear bomb either. You know what I mean?
I have complicated feelings about that one too.
Yeah,
but, you know.
So I get it. And the thing with Godzilla is it is terrible for the country who is the one doing the damage to then take the thing that is made as a metaphor for said damage and turn it into a jokey character that dies on a bridge in New York City and had babies. Yay. Okay, I mean, I get that part of it. Roland Emmerich's a big dum-dum, right? I mean, I mean, again, like we're not talking about highbrow cinema here, thankfully.
No, he makes big dumb movies, and
I love Independence Day. I mean, again, I love Independence Day. Stargate's pretty great. Stargate has a whole like 10 million things attached to it that I always forget exists. We need that person on here that loves Stargate. Wants to talk about Stargate SG-1 for like an hour. Jeez.
Maybe you guys can do a Roland Emmerich Film Foundation.
Oh God,
it'll happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What is it like? Moon? Is that Moon? Geostorm? One of his? Moonshot is one of his. Which one? Probably.
Oh, Moonfall. Moonfall.
Is that one of his? That's a Patrick Wilson movie, isn't it?
God, I don't know.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, me neither. I did not mean to start this tangent, by the way. This is not something I didn't mean to start this nuclear war. This franchise, it's a storied franchise. It's literally like one of the longest running franchises in cinema history. This is something that
I think it might be the longest. Actually.
At this point now, I think it is
Even longer than James Bond.
I think so.
Yeah.
Huh. It's got to be like pretty close though, right? Like 1 and 2 though, right? I would assume.
I don't know
what year was the first James Bond?
James Bond is 1960, right? And the first Godzilla is 54. So,
if that's the case, that sounds about right.
It's a lot. It's been around since
It's been around for a while.
Since a lot of the damage was fresh, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot around to talking about why the film exists in the first place, obviously, and what is. I am stammering because that first movie is a lot. It is a very heavy film that it takes some nuance to talk about properly, and so I'm gonna let Celeste take that when I'm assuming when we get to the first question tonight. But the biggest thing, like. This is a storied franchise with a lot of history. And one thing I do want to shout out, especially because you have it nearby, there is finally like an actual Toho approved tome directed to Godzilla, written by a friend of mine, the amazing Graham Skipper. And this book is astonishing. It is so well put together. There's history for every single film. And shockingly, do you remember how much that was on Amazon? I don't remember. It's literally like
this was a gift.
$32.
But it is like less than $30, yes.
It's crazy.
But it was a gift. Also, when I actually like opened the gift and saw it, I was like, I didn't know this was this nice. Like it's a pretty chunky, like thick, big, like coffee table book, but also the Godzilla. Let me do a little ASMR for you real quick. It's textured. It's so nice. I just like holding it. It's great.
The writing in it is perfectly constructed. Graham went back with like a lot of the people that were still alive, made sure that the history was accurate. He got access to vaults for things that nobody has seen in decades. And it is like the definitive history on Godzilla. So highly recommend everybody check that out. It has an interview with what?
I said the scans in it are beautiful.
Oh, yes. Yeah. The scans are astonishing. I was amazed when I first got that, and he was hyping that up for a while, but Graham Skipper, a lot of people know him for some of the like indie horror movies that he's done the last handful of years, but man, he could be a Godzilla scholar at this point and do just as well for himself.
He was in Downrange.
He's been in quite a few things, yeah. At this point, anything else about the history that you think we should mention before we get into the four questions?
I'll just do a brief run through because Godzilla films, there are so many of them, and they're and it's been so long in like history at this point that it's typically broken up into in like eras is what people have kind of generally grouped them into, and they're generally named after the emperor of Japan that was ruling at the time of the films being made. And so we start in 54 with the original Gojira film. And that kind of begins what's called the Showa era, which is 15 films, and all collected in the Criterion box set that I know that you have right beside you, I think. And that is sort of like, it starts as like a very, very serious, very somber drama film, really, in the first one, which I'm sure everybody knows, but I'll just say it explicitly in case you don't. Godzilla exists as a metaphor for the nuclear bomb and as a metaphor for the like horrible trauma and death and mass destruction that was, purposefully caused by Americans to Japan. And so the first film is just, it's not silly at all. And it's not like, it's a monster film in the way that you understand monsters like as a child, or like as a real tangible thing that kills a lot of people and creates a lot of bloodshed and damage and horror, you know? So it's like, it's an upsetting film. It's a scary film. It's a dense one. But we pretty quickly get into like the more silly side of it. Godzilla Raids Again, I really like a lot. It's still a little bit more serious, but it's nothing like the first one, really. But after that, you get into Godzilla versus Kong, which is like a real romp and a real goofy film. Like it's kind of like a comedy at a certain point. And yeah, like Godzilla kind of just becomes like this sort of figure in Japanese culture and also abroad as like a symbol of not just like horrible trauma, but also of like a cultural milestone and touch point. And like, I think he kind of becomes like this rallying point. And you start to see in the Showa films, Godzilla stop being like the villain and start to become the hero. And they start creating all these other monsters to become the villain that he then fights. So yeah, it's kind of a beautiful thing how like this like symbol of like the worst thing that can happen, like is kind of reclaimed as like a symbol for like overcoming that, you know, and fighting off like other demons that are going to come your way. So the Showa era kind of ends in 75, and then you get into the Heisei era, or Heisei. I don't know how to pronounce it. And I looked it up like 5 times before this and I immediately forgot. And that kind of takes it back to like more serious fare a little bit, at least for the Return of Godzilla, which is actually kind of a genuinely scary film and like kind of takes you back. It's like a reset on the whole franchise, and it attempts to remake the first one. Sort of. I will say also there are 30 plus films here, and I did kind of watch them all at this point like a little over a year ago. So if I get any details mixed up, I do apologize. I don't pretend to be like a actual scholar on this stuff. I'm just an enthusiastic fan.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. So if I get anything, you know, any details mixed up, please don't come for me, Godzilla heads in the audience.
Just email them to toho@gmail.com.
Yeah, that'll be great. They'll take all your questions and concerns. Now feel free to correct me. I like being corrected. Just don't like come for my neck or whatever. It's fine. Anyway, that film is pretty bloody and serious and kind of renews the horror and the scale of Godzilla. And then you get into like Godzilla versus Biollante and like some films that are very like message heavy and also serious, but we're also kind of like having fun again at a certain point. There's always this ebb and flow of Godzilla where like, I don't know, you kind of see it happen in cycles where it's like, we got to take it back to the original. We're getting lost in the weeds here. We got to like recapture that magic and that like seriousness and get back to basics. And then as they start getting churned out again, it's like, okay, we can have fun with it again, you know? You get into the Millennium era after that, which to me is the shakiest, because that's sort of, at that point, we're living in a post-Roland Emmerich world. And Japan is kind of in conversation with that, but also trying to emulate elements of it. And you get a lot of shoddy like CG work in some of these films. There's sort of an identity crisis that I perceive happening in some of these films. But it ends with Godzilla Final Wars, which to me is a certified banger and a lot of fun, even if it is also kind of all over the place and maybe has some questionable effects work going on. And then after that, you get into what is called the Reiwa era. Again, I don't know how to pronounce these things, and I'm sorry. But that is sort of the messiest, sort of least like cohesive era of things. This is now living in like a post-legendary sort of American reboot world. And of course, you do have that going on in America. Like you have the Emmerich film, which is successful, but not among fans. So it doesn't really turn into a whole thing. But in 2014, you have the like reboot Godzilla film, which we discussed. And now that's kind of kicked off this whole monster verse that they're trying to make happen. Well, I shouldn't say trying. They're being very successful. Like the films are making a shit ton of money.
Shit ton.
I definitely have mixed feelings about each individual entry in that. And I'm hearing, again, mixed things about the new one, and I'm going in hesitantly. But in terms of Japanese stuff, you have a Shin Godzilla, which again kind of feels like it's back to basics. Let's get serious. And it's like actually it's directed by the guy who did Neon Genesis. His name is escaping me at the moment, but it's very much his type of film. It's sort of satirizing like government bureaucracy and crisis. It kind of hits different like post-COVID watching it. But it's also like fucking scary. He looks insane in that one. And then you have -1, which has been like very, very successful in both critically and commercially. I love that film too. I think maybe we'll get into it more when we get into the questions, but I think that I've seen comments online about it that frustrate me, where it's like, oh, they finally made a good one, or it's like, oh, the first Godzilla film where you care about the human characters, and that's not accurate. But, I think it has been a good starting off point for people, because at least compared to like Godzilla versus Kong or something like that, the newest, the 2020 film, 2021, whichever the newest one is, I think people saw that and they're like, whoa, this is how good a Godzilla film can be. And like, it's a good, I think, benchmark for that. It's a good gateway film, I think. But yeah, I think that takes us to the present day.
In the present day, of course, it's a big year again for Godzilla. Godzilla just won a fucking Academy Award. Like, that's such a big deal that 70 years into a franchise, you win your first Oscar. And honestly, I'm one of those noobs that hasn't seen it yet, unfortunately, because I couldn't get out to like the week and a half it played in my town here. But everybody that's seen it has basically said there's really the only thing that was competing with it was maybe the creator from last year. But the biggest thing is it had like a nothing budget and looked as good as the creator, supposedly, which is astonishing.
It had a $10 million budget, and it looks better than things that cost, literally 300 times that. Like, it's kind of insane. Yeah, I don't know. It looks great, and it's a well-written script. It's not perfect by any means, but like, it gets the job done, I think, and it is impressive, and I think it has been important in the cultural moment. And I was really happy to see it win, and to see the people, like the representatives, bring their little figurines on stage and have their Godzilla shoes on, and the whole thing was so wholesome and just wonderful.
I agree. The last thing I really wanted to like put a button on the history with is for those that have never done anything with Godzilla other than maybe one or two of the American movies. All I'm trying to say is try to pay a little more attention. There's a lot here, and if you're considering diving in, it is deeper than just essentially a dinosaur monster movie, because this is decades and decades of trauma that has turned into, from a metaphor to a giant, essentially dinosaur, that is looked at as a hero for many of these movies, which on the face, that's a weird turn, but when you watch the movies, it starts to make sense for sure. All right. Are we ready for our first question?
Yeah, let's do it.
Question 1, as always, what do you consider a foundational title for the selected subject of Godzilla, which I feel like there's an obvious answer here, is what is the first Godzilla movie somebody should watch? So why don't you take it away, Celeste?
I think it is clearly Son of Godzilla is the film that everyone should start with to become acquainted with our favorite boy, Manila, the son of Godzilla. No, I'm joking, of course. To me, I'm actually not entirely joking. I think Son of Godzilla is unironically, genuinely wonderful, and I love it. I don't think that's where you should start, nor do I consider it to be the foundational text for what we're talking about. But in all seriousness, 1954, Gojira, that is where that's like the beginning, middle, and end. Like, that's where you should start. Like, there is none of this without that foundational text and without that fundamental understanding of like what it is we're talking about here. That film to me is perfect. It is in my top 15, maybe 10 favorite films of all time. Like, I do genuinely think it's doing so many things. And like, I don't know, again, I see people talk about -1 as like this, like, oh, finally they made a serious good Godzilla movie. And it's like, I don't want to be mean to these people, but I'm like, please start from the beginning. And like, if you're just like, you won't watch black and white films or something, like, I'm going to be a little mean and say, grow up and just like watch it. And I think you'll get something out of it. I actually do think not only is this a great starter film or whatever, or is this like the foundational film for this franchise, but I actually think that it is so good on its own merits that like somebody who doesn't like black and white films or old films or whatever, I think could be swayed by something like that. Yeah, I mean, that's the answer, you know?
So this is where the metaphor begins, and it's honestly, it's pretty damn ballsy to do this so quickly after everything. I mean, this isn't even released a decade after the bombing, and so the people that are accepting this into their cinematic hearts are literally people that were alive to be involved in everything. And so this movie had a hell of a reception. It has lasted a long time, has a massive legacy, and I think is clearly the obvious answer here. With this movie, watching this in like a modern lens, do you think there's anything that people that are brand new to this movie should keep an eye out for to really understand the depth of the film?
I mean, I think it's pretty accessible. Like, I think that as long as you're familiar with the basic history, like that you understand that it happened, you know, and you understand like the scope of like the mass death that we're talking about there. I don't know. I think it does a pretty good job. Like, I think you'd have to be actively ignoring it to not understand like what's happening in the film, you know? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you should just go into it like, just keeping that metaphor in mind, keeping it, I think it's what I was going to say. Like, it wasn't meant to be a franchise. Like, it just took off. It was so successful and it connected so well with people that like they immediately started making more. But like, this was just like an earnest sort of catharsis, you know, and like just a symbol that was created. And I think it says something about like how much we need art to process like the things that happen in the world and in our lives. You know, I mean, maybe that's not true for everybody, but I think for people like us, and I think for a lot of people, if not most people, like seeing something like that and being able to have a safe place to process all those emotions and to like have an emotional experience with like a genuinely wonderful and beautiful piece of art is, I think, like a necessary thing and like a really crucial thing for like a culture to have, you know? And I think it says something that like you said, it was so fresh, but I obviously can't put myself, like, I don't have any experience like that. I can't pretend to know what these people went through or how they were feeling. But like, I imagine given how quickly it took off and how it became such a like symbol of like resistance and pride, you know, I just feel like, I think there was something there that like needed processing, you know, there was something where like, when you go through a collective trauma like that and people are still dying of what happened, you know, and you've lived through it and you may know somebody who passed from it, you know, or who was killed in it. I'm not going to use more passive language like that. I don't know. I think that I think the thing to keep in mind is how this was like an expression of grief and an expression of trauma. And it's not something that you should go into looking for like a bash 'em up, like big brawl monster movie. You do get that pretty soon. If you keep going, just be a little bit patient. You'll get that too. But like, yeah, I think you just got to keep in mind the core of like what this is about, you know?
Well said. And funny enough, like what originally brought you and I together to do some of these things was this topic of catharsis through art. And, to put into perspective how much this was needed at that time, it's 2024 right now, and we just talked about the Oscars, and kind of ironically hilarious to talk about this, but Oppenheimer, a movie about dropping these literal bombs, won all of the awards, basically. And 8 months after that was released in theaters in the US, they just started showing that in Japan with trigger warnings and giving speeches on the stage before they actually rolled the film in Japan, because it still hurts. And it's honestly, it's a film that handles that aspect of it very, very poorly. They don't address any of that at all, really. So it's a
footnote in the film, really, you know?
Yeah.
It's like Jeffrey Dahmer's victims are footnotes in the Ryan Murphy thing on Netflix. He promises, though, that it's not a mythologizing of Jeffrey Dahmer. We swear. That's why I didn't go see Oppenheimer. Because I'm like, I wasted my fucking time. Like, this is bullshit. I mean, a movie made by an American about this thing is never going to take it seriously. I'm sorry, it's just not going to. And proof fucking point, Oppenheimer, the last and only movie about it, didn't take it seriously. Not the way it was supposed to.
I think it could have been worse. I think it could have been better. I, again, question the fundamental, like, wisdom of embarking on a project like this as an American. You know what I mean? And as, like, why are we making a film about him in the first place? I do think that these things can be done properly, but I think that it is so difficult, and I don't know that it was successful. In fact, I would argue that it largely isn't. But quick aside, you brought up Dahmer. I actually do have an analysis and a review of that series. It's actually the most popular video on my channel right now, and I am proud of it. But I do think that one was also deeply problematic.
Yeah, wow. It's about the victims, we swear. This kind of
one of them.
Like it,
one of the episodes was.
Well, 1 out of 10 ain't bad, I've heard.
Yeah.
Chris, do you have any thoughts, or you want to try to explain why the American film is the foundational film?
Hold on. Okay. Just take fucking seat to that comment, sir. We're going to have problems now. You want to tell us why that? No, you know what? No. I don't think that there's a reason to, frankly, I think, and here's kind of the thing that you're speaking to, Celeste. The original film is so not what this is now that the original film matters more than it ever has, because it is the only, like, it should be the only film in the series that does matter, because it's the only one that, like, and again, like, is coming from a place of genuine, like you already mentioned, catharsis. Godzilla versus Kong 2 times in a fucking row, like, that is nothing but a money-making operation. That is all that is. Don't get it twisted, okay? That's the problem. Like to your point, like, the Roland Emmerich Godzilla is probably a good foundational thing if we're talking about what Godzilla effectively is now in terms of the way it's handled by American film studios, which is not very well. To the point where, and this is probably the one time I tell this story because I have the opportunity. I should tell this story right now, shouldn't I? I've never told this story before. So Mike Doherty, the guy who directed Trick or Treat, and he directed Godzilla King of the Monsters, did not appreciate a Weisenheimer I made on Twitter about the, what's the word? The very subtle Christ-like imagery that is used throughout the movie for Godzilla, to the point where again, this was just me responding to a former co-host tweet. He put me on a very public list of people on his Twitter called Mean People, which is great because I said, hey, your Godzilla movie with a lot of Jesus metaphors and, like, I guess imagery, really, like, it wasn't that subtle. He didn't appreciate that. So that's my Godzilla story. And I'm sticking to it. Also, again, like, I think to your point, Celeste, like, Godzilla, it's weird to talk about it. It's like, for me, like talking about The Simpsons. Like, at one point, it was important and it was a thing that mattered because of the way it's being done. And now it's just here and it's being used in different ways. But I don't think anybody sitting down originally penning anything was like, can't wait to watch it. Godzilla movie 50 years from now. That was not a thing anyone was actively thinking about when the film was being initially put together.
Well, I think that today, I think -1 has succeeded in a few ways. Like, it has proved like a method of filmmaking that seems almost extinct in Hollywood that, like, can be done. But it also, like, the film, like on Sam Deegan's podcast, she was talking about why she doesn't like it and how she feels that it is, like, problematic in a few ways thematically. And I do hear those arguments. And I think that there is an argument or a discussion to be had about whether or not it succeeds in its themes. But I do think that it brings it back to a fundamental, like it's set in a post World War II world, you know, and it is talking about survivor's guilt and like the different side of the coin in terms of like the traumatic response to something that horrible. And so I do think that there are attempts being made to kind of bring it back to like what it's supposed to be about, at least on the Japanese side. I think the Japanese, I think Toho has been putting out bangers, honestly, in the past 10 years.
Yeah, my comments were being solely directed at the American films.
Yeah.
Watch American Godzilla from 1999. It'll give you a pretty good idea of where they are now still. Like, and better CGI, better effects, still kind of missing the point with Godzilla. And look, also, to be fair, Godzilla ends up being kind of sidelined in his own movies because it's Godzilla and Kong. We haven't gotten just a Godzilla movie since the first one, which is, I think, the other problem here. Godzilla's sidelined in his own stuff and the American things. Japanese stuff, he's not.
Yeah.
Well, so that tells the story of the first film, and that's the bulk of what this franchise is built on. So now we get into some of the other stuff that I'm sure there's a lot more silly talk that could possibly happen here. So our second question, Celeste, could you recommend a lesser-known film that is within the Godzilla franchise that might be something that could turn somebody off if they watch that as their first one, but is still a pretty great movie?
Oh, I guess we can talk about Son of Godzilla then, because it's really silly and it's really like a lot of people don't like it. Like I think it has like a 2 something on Letterboxd right now or something like that. And maybe this one is just nostalgia. I'll cop to that. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm not being objective about it. It's one I loved when I was younger, and like it's just such a blast. It's so quotable and like memeable, like Manila just running around and making his goofy little noises. But I actually do think, I don't know, I think there's some heart to it. And like watching him, it's like almost like a coming of age Godzilla film, and like watching him be a parental figure and like protect his son as like these monsters are showing up. And you know, I won't spoil it, but the ending image I think is quite beautiful and really resonant. But it's also just like it's goofy and it's silly and it's fun. Like I really like it. I think it meets in the middle somewhere in between like having heart and also just being a romp of sorts. So I don't know how many people are going to be listening to this and being like, what the fuck are you talking about? That shit is awful. But like, I don't know. Maybe give it another shot. I'll go to bat for it.
I love that they're, what's funny is people that discuss Godzilla. There's so many that are like, I hate the ones that you can tell it's a rubber suit. And it's like, so many of these were just made on a shoestring, like scrappy budget that you just have to be in awe of what they're able to pull off sometimes. I can't stand that. There's so much heart in this entire franchise.
Look, practical effects all day. And one of the ways that I always say that is like, I am pro man in a suit Godzilla all fucking day. Like there's so much like character when it's like a person performing in that suit and he's just like doing goofy shit or like actually fighting on a set, like, I don't know. Something I like to say when we're talking about practical effects and stuff where people are like, oh, but you can tell it's a suit. Is anybody under the illusion that it's a real monster when it's a computer effect? Like, no, you're not. You can tell it's a computer effect. It's the same thing. Like, What are we talking about here? Like, suspend your disbelief for a second because it's a movie and enjoy it, like.
It's the same people that go to magic shows are, he's not actually cutting it in half, right?
Wrestling is actually fake.
Thank you for getting to the third one, because that was the third thing. It's still real to me, damn it. Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, I don't get it.
We're playing pretend here, okay? Like, we are all aware that it's not a real thing, okay?
And to be fair, our country would deserve to have Godzilla come and fuck us up, given what happened. Just point that out for everybody playing along at home.
Including the American films. That's a good reason.
Well,
anyways. I
was going to say, if you want a deep cut answer from me, Celeste already mentioned Godzilla Final Wars. That's where the 1999 Godzilla gets killed, gets murdered, which is fucking hilarious. And that movie's pretty.
Film.
Yeah, it's like a dumb fun movie. Like I think it's like, it kind of toes the line of, again, like being something that's kind of serious but also pretty stupid.
Well, they also just fucking go for it in that one. Like, it is just insane. Like
Godzilla's fighting each other the whole movie. That's all it is. Like it's pretty much just that for like, I think like 90 minutes, 2 hours. It's a lot.
There's a lot of like martial arts stuff in that too, from like the human characters that
right.
There's a lot going on in that one.
I love when people say, like, I don't understand why they're human characters. It's like, well, to be fair, like the Japanese ones did it better than the American films really ever have. Like, that's the other thing. The why human characters thing always trips me up.
Chris, do you know offhand who directed Final Wars?
Who is it?
It's the guy that directed the film we just talked about.
Is it Ryuhei Kitamura? That's what I was going to be like. Is it Ryuhei Kitamura? Who also directed Downrange with Graham Skipper, which we just mentioned. Yeah. I was like, it's got to be. That's why you're mentioning it.
Yeah.
I just remember the thing where the Godzilla 99 gets murdered and everybody on the internet was like, look, they finally did it. They killed that Godzilla. It's like, doesn't change the fact the movie exists, guys. Come on.
Well, on that note, on the Final Wars note, I'm going to throw out one of the only sequels that I've seen. Destroy All Monsters is a hell of a lot of fun.
It's great.
That is late 60s, so it's still not like, it's not super deep into the franchise yet, even though it's kind of far down in the franchise. But there's so many, like Destroy All Monsters is literally all monsters in this. You've got Mothra, you've got Rodan, you've got Manila in that one. I think
King Ghidorah's in there.
Yeah,
my boy.
There's a few others, but this is just one of those like batshit sequels. This one is a lot of fun. But again, like if you had not seen the first one, I understand getting into it would be like, whoa, what is this?
It's directed by Ishiro Honda too, so it's part of the kind of OG slate of like true core Godzilla films.
Right. And it was I just looked it up. It was 1968, and then also Ishiro Honda right after that followed it up with All Monsters Attack, which I watched that one too. Not quite as good as Destroy All Monsters, but
so he actually says that's his favorite, which is insane, to be honest with you, because people don't, that's the one, especially in the Showa era, if there's one that I would say avoid, especially to start with, good Lord, like it would be that one. It is essentially just like a child, and he's like, he has like a monster friend that is like fighting all these other monsters, and it's like kind of he's projecting himself onto this monster to like fight his bullies. He's like a kid that's getting bullied. The problem I had, like, that's fine if you want to make a kids movie that's like anti-bullying. That's a Godzilla movie. That's chill. That sounds fun, right? The problem is that it's just a clip show. Like all of the fights are just scenes taken from previous films, and you will notice, especially in the Showa era, that there are recycled shots and scenes a lot. There's a lot of recycled B-roll footage or whatever. And you sort of come to expect it, and it's like, okay, that's fine. We're doing this again. But that is quite literally a clip show, like kind of strung together with this like child narrative. I don't know. Maybe if I rewatched it knowing that's what it was, I could get into it. Or maybe if I could watch it outside of the context of watching them all back to back to back to back, because then I'm like, oh, that's from this, that's from this, that's from this. You know, it's the sort of thing I think I could enjoy, but it's certainly not the one I would recommend.
I've never heard his reasoning for saying it's his favorite. I wonder if that's why, because it's kind of like a compilation greatest hits. Yeah,
I think he said something to the effect of like he really likes the way that the child is able to find to find himself and like find like victory and catharsis like through these creatures or whatever. I think he just likes that idea. I don't know. It's a very insane comment to me, but you know.
Yeah, the whole franchise kind of is when you think about it. There's so many weird swings that happen that go all over the spectrum of bad shit to kind of boring to silly to epic action, and it just sort of has something for everybody. And I hate saying that because it's so cliche, but in a storied franchise that's 70 years old with so many movies, like it really kind of does.
Yeah, I mean, with a franchise that long and with that many entries, like it is a mixed bag, right? I don't love every single Godzilla film. I don't even like every single one. There are ones where I'm like, that wasn't very good. But yeah, I will say there is something to like in all of them, at least for me. And I think that you're right. Like, I don't know that your average person couldn't find at least one that would appeal to them in some way. Like, you have your more serious, like, horror type films, or like war films, or action films, or children's films even, or more sci-fi heavy stuff. I do think that there's something, and you have your English language ones too, for all the nice, charming people who don't want to watch foreign language films that I'll continue to just say nice things about.
Well, the third question now, I kind of feel like we've talked about this in depth, but if there's anything else to add, I think we probably could. What do you think is the biggest impact that Godzilla's had on pop culture? Because obviously the metaphor for the first movie was important for the people that watched it in that time. But, for something that's been around for 70 years, is there a bigger impact on pop culture that it's had that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question in preparation. I still don't know how to answer that. Like, it's like, he's so ubiquitous, like as a symbol and as an entertainment icon. And like there's a statue of him in Japan, like, I think maybe outside of giving a voice to and an artistic statement to the trauma of a society that, or a country that went through like one of the biggest war crimes in history. I think maybe, I'm making fun of people who don't want to watch foreign language films or older films, but I think maybe that's going to be my answer. It's like the way that it has been accessible and has got people into foreign films, pre-1980s films, black and white films. Like, there are kids that love Godzilla today. That's kind of incredible. The staying power of something that is not an American export, that is, itself a symbol of horrible trauma, that has also become a symbol of like power and victory and catharsis and triumph, like that begins in 1954. Like, you can think of like Marvel comics and stuff like that have had that kind of staying power, but those are very strictly like American products. You know what I mean? Like, there's a built-in identity there for kids growing up, at least here, right? And to see how much it still plays, it still works to audiences today. I don't know, there's something in that in and of itself, where there's a lot of boundaries like to entry for people for that kind of thing. I'm trying to think if there's even anything even slightly analogous of like a foreign language like IP that has had this kind of cultural impact and staying power,
I mean, yeah. The only other things that you could throw out there are still very like white at the heart of it. There's some European stories that like some of the old like nursery rhymes and Shakespeare type things that aren't inherently
Like, you could think of like
American.
British exports that are still very like English language friendly, obviously, and like you said, very white. But this is not that, I mean, it has kind of become that to some people, and it's kind of been whitewashed sort of into that. But I don't think, even if you're just like really into like the newer stuff, you're still not getting away from that. Like, you can't make an entirely white Godzilla film that works,
Yeah, it's a good point. On that note, to throw out something inherently Japanese, I know that there's been many of the directors that have come out over the last 30 years that have cited seeing some of the older Godzilla movies, not even necessarily the first one, but just growing up on the franchise, that are like, oh, I processed that through this, I could make a movie. And that sort of thing has been so inspiring. And when it's lasted 70 years and been relative for generations, so literally if somebody is, turning 20 in the year 2005, their parents got passed down the stories from their parents of going through it. And now they're at the point where it's a 3-generational franchise that they've seen grow through their family. And it's continued to be a symbol of hope, a symbol of justice, a symbol of overcoming odds. And it's inspired them to make movies. And that's pretty damn incredible. Any thoughts on this one there, Chris?
I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, I agree. I mean, again, for me, like, it always feels weird for me as someone who is born in the United States to have an opinion about Godzilla, because again, like, it's not that it's not ours, but like, it kind of isn't ours.
Yeah.
So it's always weird for me to be like, well, you know, and it's like my feelings on Godzilla is something that I think, again, we should never have attempted as a thing in this country. And the fact that we did, I mean, it's fine and all if it wants to be entertainment, but it has kind of lessened the message of what Godzilla is. At least for a lot of people that are going to consume what they think Godzilla is right now. And that's the thing. That's kind of my whole thing is I wish there was a way to undo the last 50 years of insane Godzilla nonsense. Because again, in a lot of ways, like, the thing that you really want is you want Godzilla, but you want Godzilla to be taken seriously. And I don't think Godzilla is taken seriously by Americans. And I don't think he ever will be. And again, like, when you put him with someone like King Kong, now he has just become something purely for entertainment and nothing else. So,
yeah, I mean,
it's hard. I mean, it's just weird because, again, as Americans, we really should be kind of embarrassed by Godzilla being successful. Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, I don't know how else to put it. Like, Godzilla being successful is something that we shouldn't have any say over or any part of. And the fact that we do is kind of insane. So,
yeah, this kind of reminds me of when I went through that Criterion box set and I watched all the special features. I wish I could remember who it was with, but it was somebody who I think either worked on some of the special effects or like he worked on some of those original Godzilla films. And he said some really interesting things to me where he was like, oh yeah, it's so awesome that Americans love Godzilla. That's like the highest watermark of success to me and to like our people and stuff like that. And like, he was also like, and you know, he also said that like the movies that they made are not art. They're like just entertainment, and it rules that like Americans are entertained by it. And it's just like, I don't know. You know, I don't want to, again, this is me kind of like attempting not to like speak for all of Japanese people or like the Japanese culture or something. And like, there are also viewpoints there that I don't agree with. And I also don't want to make it seem like I'm being too jingoistic or nationalistic the other way and say that like Japan is like this flawless governmental entity or history or anything like that, you know? But I think that when you like, I think I can also comfortably say that I think that person is wrong, that like they did make artistic films and like that any film really is artistic. And like, I don't think that a film that was created to process the trauma of the American dropped atomic bomb. Like, I don't think the benchmark for your success should be that Americans think it's neat. I don't know, you know?
Right. No,
that was insane to me when I heard it.
I'm completely with you. That is pretty wild. That is very wild. That is. I mean, again, that's pretty insane.
On the bright side, when the Americans make these movies, they do pay a licensing fee, so at least some of it is making its way back.
Yeah, and they are made in collaboration to some extent because of that licensing, right? And so it's not like I did kind of want to speak to that somewhat collaborative effort there, but I do think fundamentally I have a hard time getting away from like, I don't think this is our thing. I don't think this is our place to like, you know, be authorities on or create, to like drive the cultural discussion on, you know?
Well, one thing I will say too is I think that it is important that we call attention to that, but once we have done that, I still think there's no reason that you can't enjoy them clearly.
Oh, of course.
And
of course.
There are a lot of people that, like film Twitter nowadays. You'll hear random hot takes like those aren't our movies. We can't watch them, or the same, you know, drivel about subtitles or whatever. There's so many random reasons that people will gatekeep themselves from watching these movies, and that's certainly not what we're saying. But it's the fact that we don't like at heart own these movies. And that's it's important to acknowledge.
Never will.
That reminded me of something that I just got a rant about for a second. Like, You know how Letterboxd does like their thing where they ask everybody their favorite 4 movies or whatever?
Yep.
And they were at the Oscars asking people. And they asked the Godzilla -1 team, and they collectively kind of gave answers. They were just like shouting out their favorite films. And they picked like Blade Runner, Alien, Back to the Future, and some other like, Jurassic Park, I think. I'm surprised I remember that off the top of my head. But those are the ones that they picked. And I cannot tell you the amount of comments and TikToks I saw that were like, oh, finally, somebody picked like good, real movies and not pretending to like pretentious foreign art house films. And like somebody already pointed out, but I was like, hey, bud, those are foreign films to them.
That's wild.
Like, it's fine. If you love Back to the Future and Alien and Jaws or whatever, you like that stuff. You know, your standard, blockbuster, like classic Hollywood fare. That's good stuff, But there's this kind of anti-intellectual bent where it's like, oh, that title's not in English. You can't possibly mean that you like that. Right. Or like, your favorite movie is Jean Dielman. Like, I don't believe you. It's just like... Okay. I don't know how relevant that is to our discussion. That just came to mind as you were discussing the, let's call them eccentricities of film tour.
Well, on that note, one of the eccentricities that at least 2 of us share quite a bit is the love of physical media. And you mentioned the Criterion Godzilla box set. And for those that aren't aware, it is the Godzilla Showa era box set that they've put out. And Criterion, through Barnes & Noble and through their own website, frequently has sales. And this thing goes on sale every time for $124.99. And this box set, I've never talked to you about it. How do you feel about the box set as a whole? Like, do you think it's worth that money? Do you think it's one that you would recommend people buy to check out these films? Just overall general thoughts.
So when I first got into collecting in 2020, and I first like got into Criterion, and I was like, I'm gonna have start a Criterion collection. That was number 1 on my list. I was like, and when I had my first Barnes & Noble sale, I talk about it like it's a first date or something, but like that was like beeline. That's mine. That box set. I had to have it. And I do love it. Like, it's not like the nicest thing in my collection. It's not the most valuable or the most limited at all or anything like that, but it is something that I have on display and that I cherish. Like, but for the average person or for the person getting into Godzilla, I don't know that I can responsibly be like, oh, just drop $112 on this like really gargantuan kind of like unwieldy box set. And there's people complain about how the discs are housed in that set, which I agree is not the best, but I have a disc wallet for like all my weird box sets and shit, and that takes care of the issue pretty easily. It's not like, complete series box sets are super easy to navigate either, so I have it for that too. But I don't know, when you hold it in your hand, like the artwork on that thing and the way it feels, it is just gorgeous. But I will say, for those of us who must be budget conscious, as it were, they are all Janus licensed films, and so the Criterion channel has them and all their supplements all the time. So you can sign up for the Criterion channel and watch them that way if you need a more budget-friendly option. I think, from what I understand, Toho is pretty strict about licensing, and so there's no in-house restoration or anything. Like, I think they put out what they get. And like, as I was attempting to rewatch some of these films, like I wanted to rewatch the original Godzilla vs. Kong, and the Japanese version is on the supplement disc, and the English version is like the main feature, which I think was a contractual thing because there's no way they did that, like, because I wanted to. You know what? That brings me to another point. The Americanization of Godzilla did not start in 1999 with Roland Emmerich. Even from the very beginning, there is an American version of the original Godzilla called Godzilla King of the Monsters, and it fucking sucks. It's so
and it
bad.
Has Raymond Barry edited into most of it.
They just edit segments of this white guy explaining what is happening to the audience. And I think I have this in my Letterboxd review, and I was like, gee, if only there was a way you could convey what is happening in a foreign language film to an English-speaking audience while conveying all of the original dialogue. It's almost like you don't have to shoot a whole new movie. There's this like cool technology we have for it. And they did American versions for Godzilla vs. Kong. They did one for Return of Godzilla, which is called Godzilla 1985. I've watched all of these films too, and they're all terrible. They all suck. Like they there's something about, I think, when an American studio is tasked with like, hey, can you retell this story of like the most horrific trauma that you inflicted on other people? They're like, yeah, we could do that. Let's just rewrite a couple things. Like Godzilla versus Kong, I haven't watched the American version in a long time, and I don't plan on rewatching it. But I think I have a Letterboxd review of it too, where I'm like, man, this film is so much fun, like no matter which version you watch, but let's just call the treatment of the atomic bomb here problematic, to say the least. Yeah. Like, it's clear that there's some guilt seeping in that seeks to rewrite history a bit when we're tasked with making this story palatable to an American audience, right?
When we task ourselves with that.
Right. Yeah, I guess you're right. Anyway, and so like there's not a ton of supplements on it either, but again, I think that that's the sort of thing where there's only so much they could license out. But from what I understand, like getting all those films together on one set was nothing short of like a miracle in terms of licensing and everything. So I think it's kind of like a touchstone achievement in their history and in this space. So if you can afford it, fuck it, go get it. It rules. But if you are broke or out of a job, hypothetically, maybe watch it on the Criterion channel.
I will also say the same thing that I've been saying since this thing came out. It was Spy number 1000, so it was like this big lauded achievement that Criterion got to release number 1000. And I will shout this from the rooftops till the day I die. Release that cover as a screen printed poster, you cowards. Like, we all want to display that. And obviously this is meant more as like a coffee table book piece than a regular shelf piece for physical media. But God, that would look so amazing as a poster.
Yeah, I like the back artwork especially.
It's very good.
That's like all of the artwork in it is just stunning.
Yep.
I have it actually on like a display stand on top of my shelf because it doesn't fit anywhere, and like the Fellini one is next to it. I just odds and ends, you know. Criterion can get a little extra with their packaging, I think, but
a little bit. Well, let's go on to the fourth question because man, I'm kind of worried about this one. I feel like there's a lot that we could say. There's maybe not a lot we could say, but the fourth question, as usual, of course, is what is a cinematic bridge to Godzilla? Basically, what is something that the listener of this is already a fan of that would indicate to them that they may be a fan of the entire Godzilla franchise?
You know, as long as we're talking about cultural achievements, like starting an entire genre of kaiju cinema, you know, which they kind of retroactively like let King Kong into, you know, and now I'm wondering, does King Kong count as the longest running franchise? 'Cause that's like 30s, you know.
I was wondering about King Kong as well. I was wondering that as well. King Kong's been around for quite some time.
Those are mostly remakes, though. Like the Godzilla stuff, a lot of that is continuing it.
That's fair. There are plenty of there are King Kong movies.
I guess, I mean, that's the obvious answer, right? If you really love King Kong, it's probably a good bridge. There are literal films to bridge that gap for you. But like, I don't know. Maybe if you're into Neon Genesis, you know, if you're into like highbrow anime, you could start with Shin Godzilla, which would actually be another good answer for like a very, very polarizing one to start with. Because it's an art film, you know, it's like a really like breakneck pace, like rapid fire, like who's who of like art house filmmakers, and like Shinya Sakamoto is in that film. He plays a role in that. Tetsuo the Iron Man himself. So I don't know. Maybe that's a place to start if you're that type of person. I guess it really depends on where you're starting. You know, this is also kind of it's like asking like, what's the bridge to like getting into Marvel movies? Like, I don't know, DC maybe. Like, it's so ubiquitous. I have a hard time picturing the person who's not at least a little bit familiar. But yeah, I don't know. If you're into monster movies, if you're into like big disaster movies, maybe be a good place to start. King Kong, Neon Genesis, all similar points of reference, right?
Chris, you got an answer for this one?
I mean, I think, Celeste, you pretty much nailed it. Like, I think if you're into, anime, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is a thing that is so ubiquitous. Like, I don't know. I feel like everybody at one point in their life has seen one of these movies and gone, "Oh, I like this," or this isn't my thing." Like, right. So I don't know. Like, my thoughts are kind of like y'all's, which is like, it's kind of its own thing. Like, it kind of is the thing. So yeah. I don't know. Like that's me. It's just like, this is the thing, I guess. So. Yeah. I don't know.
I thought of Neon Genesis specifically just because of the director connection, but I think you're right. If you're like a weeb in general, or you're like really into anime in general, I think like, and you haven't taken the plunge, I think you could get on board with this. Like if you're into especially like mecha style anime or things like that.
Yes. You know what? You're totally right. Like in my mind, it's like if you're into Japanese stuff already, like if you're a Japanophile, like you're into this already. I mean, look, I was in Tokyo. I mean, I saw the Toho Godzilla's head poking over this top of the building. Like, the love for Godzilla is real. I mean, again, I don't have to tell anyone here that, but I mean, again, in Japan, Godzilla's a huge deal for good reason.
There is I won't say which one to avoid spoilers, but there is a film where the idea was, okay, Godzilla's done. Let's move on. And there were protests in Japan over this. They were like, right. No, that's not an option. We will have Godzilla or else. I love that. I think that's great.
So I'm picturing in my head a very young audience, because if you're a very young American, it is quite possible that you've literally never seen a Godzilla movie. We didn't have anything between Roland Emmerich and the Bryan Cranston Godzilla, so we had a pretty decently length dry spell, which was probably for the better, of new Godzilla movies that were marketed super well in the US. And so based on that, I think there's quite a few people that are on the younger side that may have never seen any of these. And also, if you're getting into film and maybe fell in love with Parasite that recently won Best Picture, I could see somebody that was turned on from Parasite to watch more Bong Joon-ho films and loved The Host by Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah.
And
fair.
That, to me, that is like the other example of this movie specifically. Because that movie is so deep on how the government has bungled everything. And it's obviously also a monster movie, and it's also a human movie at its heart. It is a movie that is so much deeper than it looks to be on its surface, and has incredible acting. It doesn't have great CGI, so again, that kind of ties in with this franchise as well. You look past that to see the better art at the core of this, and that's true for Godzilla too. So I love Bong Joon-ho's Host. I love a lot of these Godzilla movies. It is, again, hard to recommend anything associated with this without just saying, just watch fucking Godzilla.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard thing. Like, this is one of those times where I'm like, I just watch the fucking movies. Like, maybe don't watch the American ones. I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to suggest any of the American ones, no matter how fun they get, because ultimately, even if they are paying them royalties, they're still Americans making Godzilla movies.
Oh, yeah.
As you were talking, I thought like, oh, it's so obvious. But like that's like almost a joke. This like new crop of like A24 elevated horror movies where like every single one of them is like, it's almost like a meme at this point where it's like, oh, the metaphor is trauma like every time, like if you watch Hereditary and then fucking Talk to Me and you're just like, oh, this is the best shit. Yo, Godzilla 1954, you're gonna love that shit. Like it's right up your alley there,
That's totally fair. Yeah, giant lizard as nuclear trauma. Did not have that on my bingo card. That's very fair. Interesting. Huh. Yeah, I had never. Well, yeah. That's interesting. Why didn't A24 make Godzilla? Why didn't Darren Aronofsky make Godzilla? That's the real question.
But a lot of those dudes would love to if they could get a chance at it,
Nothing I love more than metaphor. Good for them. Hey, somebody's got to be carrying that torch. It's not a movie about Batman as much as it's a movie about the hero in all of us. Next, please. This isn't Arby's, sir.
Well, this is like the tweet I saw recently that went viral where it's like, horror movies used to be about a weird, freaky guy that killed you, and now it's about like your trauma chasing you in your $500,000 house.
Yeah.
And look, I will say I love both of those things, but we can have our elevated, like, highfalutin film bro horror, and I think that's great. We can also have our weird guy horror, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
our weird, freaky guy.
Well, and
I'd also say that meme's a little outdated because a $500,000 house is kind of just a
house
McMansion house nowadays. Well, on the point of frying brains, Celeste, what do you got coming up on the channel? What's coming up for you?
I've been putting more work than anything I've ever done in my life into reviewing the fucking November Vinegar Syndrome titles, with the 10 film box set included. That's in its editing stage, and so we'll be up soon. It should be out by the time this episode is out. All these things coming up should be out by the time this episode is out. So we'll just say retroactively, go check them out now, as you have the benefit of living in the future. Lucky you.
Hopefully.
Yeah, no. Checking the news every day is like damage report. Let's go. What's going on? By now, I should have started my online cult and exploitation course with one Dr. Will Dotson that I'm really excited about. I think it's going to be a really cool thing when it's all said and done. We're kind of doing like a great courses style lecture series for weird freaks that are into disgusting horror movies. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good thing. Hopefully the podcast is launched by now. I don't know. That one, there's a lot going on in our lives that it kind of gets put on the back burner, but hopefully we'll have something good to go on that. Yeah, just lots of videos coming out and existing for you.
Amazing. Chris, do you want to highlight something for Weirding Way Media?
Just go to weirdingwaymedia.com where you can find everything that I work on, which is abundant in its offerings. Culturecast. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Just go to weirdingwaymedia.com. You'll find it. There's plenty of stuff. There's it's not hard to miss it. What about you, Ryan? What's going on at Someone's Favorite Productions?
Well, I'll say Sam Deegan got mentioned earlier.
Lazy bones over there.
Sam Deegan got mentioned earlier, so I'm going to highlight They Live by Film, who just recently posted an incredible conversation with Sam Deegan, who is maybe more vulnerable than I've ever seen her get. She really gets deep into like the weeds of how the creative process can make or break somebody. And just it for somebody like me and probably Celeste, it was pretty damn inspiring to listen to. It is one that I highly recommend, but They Live by Film does great work. They do an interview every other week, and then in the in-between weeks, they do some sort of film coverage. So it's a perfect balance of conversation and analytics that I just am a big fan of.
Oh, you know what? First, I think when you started saying like for people like you and me, it might have been inspirational. Like, yeah, us fucking neurospicy fucking weirdos. Yep. Yeah, it was relatable. But also, like, speaking of They Live by Film, it should be out by the time this is out. But I'm going to be recording with them in a couple days to discuss some Lars von Trier films.
Nice.
So that'll be fun. Probably isn't the right word, but it'll be something.
Speaking of trauma.
Yeah. Speaking of visceral horror.
I saw one of your review stories pop across Letterboxd. I went, I guess Celeste is going to be talking to Zach and Chris soon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, Lars von Trier is a hell of a subject to unpack.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting discussion, especially given some of the behind the scenes on one of the films we're going to talk about. So we'll see.
Fantastic. Well, Celeste, I want to say again, thank you for coming on and doing this. I know this franchise is intimidating, to say the least, for the depth of it, for the importance of it, and for the amount of stuff that has come into this over 70 years. It's a lot to grasp. So thanks for taking that plunge. We hope everybody goes and checks out your stuff. Other than that, we hope everybody comes back and checks out the next episode, and that you continue to try new things like Godzilla Destroy All Monsters and all the random shit that we talked about tonight. So until next time, Enjoy the show.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind the scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.